Hello, everyone. This is Manolo Concepcion. I am the new associate head coach at Eastern Illinois University here in the NCAA Division I in United States of America. I just want to let you know that today's program is actually going to be in English and in Spanish. So I hope that everyone sticks around. Espero que todo el mundo le guste la transmisión del día de hoy, donde vamos a estar en español y en inglés conversando con un gran entrenador aquí en la NCAA División I. Estoy hablando en el día de hoy con el dirigente de la Universidad de Pittsburgh, el señor Dan Fisher. Dan, ¿cómo te encuentras en el día de hoy?
Bueno, estoy bien. ¿Qué tal?
Muy bien, muy bien. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you coming into Volley Junkies that has been going on since mid-March. How about you? What have you been doing? Of course, we know that you are the head volleyball coach at University of Pittsburgh, but also how have you been spending this times of pandemic?
Very similar to a lot of the other people, you've had on. For me, I have 2 young kids at home, so trying to juggle learning how to work from home until we recently were allowed back in the office. But we tried to keep it some just consistency. So one like official team meeting a week that had, we work with a great sports psychologist. So we did some video, some work with our sports psychologists, some just updates, and then we would have another, like one other a week, which we tried to keep to about a half an hour, which would, we try to be creative with it. Sometimes it was a surprise. Sometimes it was, a Q&A with a professional player. We cooked together. We've tried to do anything we can think of to keep it fresh.
Absolutely. And, and no one teaches us how to deal with a time of, we train as coaches to deal with adversity and teach players how to deal with adversity, but no one is prepared how to deal with a pandemic. So creo que son tiempos nuevos para todo el mundo, incluyendo los entrenadores y los jugadores. I remind everyone that this conversation will be in both languages. If you're interested in any sort of translation during the transmission, remember that YouTube provides you any translation from any language at any point. And we are going live also in YouTube. So, Dan, primero que nada, quiero preguntarte cómo tú comienzas a hablar español. ¿Comienzas a hablar español porque jugaste profesional en algún lugar específico?
Sí, hace, casi 20 años. Era jugador a nivel profesional en Europa y yo jugué 3 temporadas en España. Así que todavía entiendo, pero me cuesta hablar.
Qué bien, qué bien. And Dan was also a USA Volleyball national team player, now coach. But talk to me a little bit about your experiences there as well, and and you growing up in the game in California.
Yeah, I grew up in Santa Barbara, and in a great volleyball community, and so many of the people that you've had on I've been associated with, and at one point, I grew up and Rick Olmsted was refereeing every one of my games. My father was a physical therapist, and at one point he was working for Karch Karai's father. So the world of volleyball is very small, and so I grew up in a great volleyball community and fell in love with it. And then played in college, and I was a good player and worked really hard to be good enough to be a pro. I would train a couple summers with the national team, but not good enough to make really anything more than the B team.
Do you started in the beach as well, as many Californians do, Dan? Like, how often? Tell me about how is it to grow in California and fall in love with the game? Because it's one of those few states that you start the opposite way. You start in the beach, right?
Well,
Or most of the
I
time.
started. Well, I'll tell you, the real place I started was in my backyard with my brother playing pepper.
Nice.
And so he started playing in about the 8th grade, and he wanted to practice at home. So I was about 5th grade, and we just would go in the backyard and pepper for 2 hours. And so I developed some ball control before I even knew anything about how to play. And then it's hard to learn on the beach. It's such a hard game. So it was about the summer going into my sophomore year of high school. I started playing beach all day, every day, and so then I was hooked. So I got better by playing for sure.
It's when did you start in getting specialized in a specific position, Dan, and how does that go in accordance to what you prefer right now?
Well, I got specialized in a position, and then I got unspecialized. So, I was a setter. My freshman year of high school, I was 5'10", and now I'm 6'6", and so I was always kind of the backup setter, but they wanted me to hit because I was tall. So I played opposite. I went to college to be an opposite, and I played my first years at University of Hawaii, then transferred to Northridge. And they needed a setter, and they had a pretty good right side at the time. And so the coach, John Price, who's a wonderful coach, great human, he took it upon himself to give me the reps and taught me how to set. And so I have mostly set since then. So I specialized 3rd year in college, really.
Y pregunta, as a setter, what are some of the things that distinguish you? Aside from the technical part, what are some of the intangibles that you still instill in your players today?
That I felt that I had, or that just I look for in general?
Yeah, like what do you have that you feel that you instill in your players today?
I think what I had is, I was a good all-around player and a good competitor. I think I benefited from the generation that, volleyball has gone in this, like, everyone wants tall players, and everyone sees Brazil, then they want short athletic players. And so I was part of, when I was playing, I think everyone was looking to the Netherlands and Peter Blanchet and thinking every setter needed to be. So it's funny because I actually, I've had some really good setters over the last couple of years at Pitt that were shorter, because I don't necessarily value just being a tall setter. I value location. I got good at that later in my career. And I was good all around. So I look for someone that just can better the ball at number one, and that's a good competitor. And then
has the gate. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then if you can have the serve and the block too, of course it's nice. But those are secondary to location and understanding some tactical basics.
Do you feel that your personality as a player is the same personality that you have as a coach?
I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that.
I'll tell you an example.
I think there's carryover, but I'm trying every year. I try to evolve as a coach. So I think my demeanor as a coach is maybe a little different than it was 3 years ago. But I think the one thing that I always felt like I was tall, but I never felt that talented. Okay. So I always felt like I had to outwork the players that jumped higher than me and then hit harder. And I had this a little bit of chip on my shoulder. So that part I take with me as a coach. I look for players that, that kind of like adopt that kind of underdog mentality a little bit.
In that moment, for you as a player, did that motivate you to continue to push, to continue to grind? What are some of the things that you did as a player aside from just the normal training? Do you go and train on your own then? The extra reps, the studying of the game. What were some of the things that you did?
Well, it was harder to study the game the way we do now back then. But I was definitely the extra reps before practice longer, after practice more than other players, and then in the summers on the beach, I'd play all day. I'm not recommending it for your knees and your shoulders, but and I was also fortunate that because I was living in Santa Barbara as a beach player, my main training partners at the time were Dax Holden and Todd Rogers. And then when he started playing with Phil, Phil would be down once a week, and so I'd get in these games that were a little bit above my level. But I was definitely a do more to gain an edge kind of guy as a player.
And I also felt as a player that, and when I played baseball and then later volleyball, that definitely playing with better players around me, I benefited almost more from those players around me than from the coaches themselves. I don't know if it's because I listen to them more, or they just push me and inspire me to be better myself. To make sure that I'm competing for my spot every single day in the gym. So maybe you surrounding yourself with those type of players have always pushed you to the limit as a player. Like, for example, what match are we watching right now, Dan? You remember this match?
Well, this is my senior year of college at the University of the Pacific. And we had a good team that year. We made the MPSF playoffs, which is no small thing in that league. And we're playing against IPFW. And we lost a close 5-set game. And it's funny because, there's Hector Soto. You have Jeff Petax was a freshman for IPFW. There's Arnie Ball. Chris Gislin was the setter. The Rock was Perrine. I can't remember. I'm blanking on his actual name. We always call him the current coach of IPFW. On the court. So it's funny. There's a lot of Hector Soto and Petac, I think, played almost 20 years professionally, both of them. So
they did. And Petac jugó en Puerto Rico mucho tiempo. En Puerto Rico mucha gente lo quiere casi como un puertorriqueño de ellos. Cuéntame cómo era Piqui Soto en estos tiempos. ¿Qué cualidades tenía que tú veías en él?
Bueno, el salto era más que nunca he visto, casi como 50 inches. Y pega fuerte, pero recuerdo que no era siempre alto. Yo pienso que con más tiempo él era más regular con su ataque. En este momento era más up and down, irregular.
Sí, estaba learning the game still.
Yeah, I mean, the jump and the arm and everything's there, but then I remember watching him, after he had played pro for 10 years, going, man, he was just a very consistent player. But he was, when he was unstoppable in college when things went right.
And I see number 7 for IPFW, who was probably also part of the, USA High Performance coaching staff, Dan, and he has been for years now as well with you.
Number 7, who am I missing?
Yeah, do you see him right there? Right there. Is that him, right?
Number 1.
He was. Yeah, he was exactly number 1. He was actually in the USAV high performance staff, for a long time. I actually saw him when I did high performance 2 years ago. Wow. Yeah. And tell me, Dan, pregunta que te hago, what is the biggest memory that you take from playing in college and then, now transitioning into coaching?
I take so many. I can only give you one.
¿Cuáles son las memorias más importantes para ti?
Bueno, hay buenos momentos, pero siempre son las relaciones con sus amigos, con sus compañeros de equipo que son los mejores, pienso yo. Y también para mí, the time playing in Europe was almost more. Well, I'll give you two things. I was fortunate to go, like at the University of Hawaii, we had to play with so many people from around the world. I had Israelis on my team. I had people from all over the U.S., an Austrian. And also, 18 years old, moving to a different culture in Hawaii, that made a big, I guess that changed the course of my life. Because then you're like, all of a sudden I go from, Santa Barbara is generally, white people or Mexican Americans. And so then all of a sudden you're in a place where, people look different than you. There's different, different foods. There's, and they love volleyball so much. So that just sent me on a path to really, I guess, appreciate different cultures and have a desire to travel and see different places around the world. And then, the time I lived in Europe, especially living in Spain, when you're a place for 3 years, you start over time, it's not just speaking the language, you start to think the way they do. You start to become Spanish a little bit, So I think those two things have really made me want to keep recruiting internationally and bringing and kept me, I guess, more open-minded to different ways to do things.
Hey, and now that you're speaking about that, and I want to touch base on a really important matter that is going on, especially in the U.S. and Puerto Rico, and it's the concept of discrimination, and you say that you have learned to have cultural sensitivity because of being in different countries and, and be surrounded by different cultures. How important is that to you as a coach now, at the college level here in the United States?
Well, I think there's nothing, if you want to have a team where people feel like they can be vulnerable, and there's nothing more important than someone feeling like, they can feel good about who they are in your culture. And so I think there's nothing more important than that. I say I'm, this is certainly all that's gone on in the world and has also, even though I felt that I was open-minded, this has opened me up to a lot of my blind spots as well, personally. So I think I've learned.
It's definitely a process of growth for everyone, and and me as an outsider per se coming in, into the States and then going through this process. I think it's even new for me that I'm a minority. So we're all growing through this process as coaches, and and speaking of growth, you went from winning an NAIA championship at Concordia University to then going into the NCAA. Tell me about that experience. For the NAIA community, how is it? How's that NAIA world? Give us a brief insight of what you went through with Concordia University at those years, and then going into the NCAA.
Those were two just. I mean, those are two of the best years of my life, coaching wise, for sure, right? I mean, so many things, like when you're a young assistant, you dream of, having your own program. I also dreamed of buying my own first home. I dreamed of having a kid. And so within a year and a half, I had my first head coaching job. My daughter was born, and I bought a house in Orange County. And simultaneously I inherited this group of really, really talented players at Concordia, and I knew nothing about the NAIA. So I kind of I mean, Paula Weishoff definitely helped me, you know, got my foot in the door, and she used to be the head coach there, and she's back there now. And so I asked her a lot of questions about what it's like to, you know, to coach, you know, in the NAI, but also to coach at a faith-based school. You know, I grew up Lutheran, but I had never coached in a way where, you know, we didn't regularly pray together or, you know, talk about our faith. And so those were things I had to learn. And but the group I inherited was just such a neat group of young people. And then we brought in really over the 2 years, 2 Chinese girls, and it just added this just really cool mix to our team. And it was a special 2 years. And the NAI community, to answer your question, is awesome. And there's just a lot of really good coaches, but not just good coaches of the game. Like, they're just in it for the right reasons. Like, they're in it because they love the sport, and so it's you know, it's definitely competitive, and more competitive than people realize, but not necessarily the rat race that Division I is at times.
You also coach, you know, of course, in the men's side. You have experience, including with Hawaii. Tell me what you're bringing from the men's game into the women's game, and do you see it differently as well?
Well, yeah, I think when I first transitioned to coaching women's volleyball, I didn't know much about the women's game, truthfully. I just kind of operated, maybe part of it was just arrogance and ignorance, but I just, you know, just said, hey, I'm going to train the same way we train the men, you know, at least skill wise. And so for the most part, I still believe that. I think, so I think, you know, the way we teach skills is I teach it the same. But so, you know, obviously I've learned some, I guess, some like cultural differences over the years, but I think, yeah, just when we're training the game, I think it's quite similar. And the other thing I'd say is, from the, you know, the last 10, 15 years, I feel like women's volleyball, the level keeps getting higher and higher, and it just looks more and more like the men's game every year. So it's been fun to see the growth.
Management of personnel. Do you treat it the same, you know, when you're coaching men as if you're talking to women, you know, coaching women? Like, do you feel that changes, you know, the relationship skills that you acquire in each, you know, coaching each gender, or do you think it's really similar as well?
I think it's very similar, because the number one, you want to establish, you know, just a relationship built on mutual respect and trust, and hopefully love. Hopefully you, like, you know, you really care about each other. So that's, doesn't matter the gender. You know, what I've learned from some of the really good sports psychologists I've worked with is that, you know, these aren't absolutes, but sometimes when women are pissed off, it takes them longer to come back to neutral than it would maybe a typical man. And so I guess if we have, you know, if we sense there's some interpersonal issues, or that someone's, you know, like, you know, doesn't look happy or something looks off, we try to talk about it right away, so it doesn't turn into something bigger. And maybe with the men's team, you just kind of
let it go.
Yeah, see how it looks tomorrow, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand.
You know, so that's kind of, I guess, maybe one of the only real differences that
y antes que vayamos para Pitt, quiero preguntarte, eres el nuevo head coach, their junior national team. You're the new head coach for the USA junior national team. You have been involved already with Team USA in different capacities, including experience in the senior national team. But what does this mean to you, and, you know, and cuáles son las expectativas para un grupo como ese?
Bueno, es una experiencia nueva. Y tengo experiencia con el senior national team, pero pero de esta edad, no sé, tengo que aprender. But I'm excited because I think it's, for a lot of these, this year is a strange year, so we're not able to train, but it's a 2-year kind of appointment. So I'm hoping that we'll have mostly the same group for next year. But the thing that's, I guess, it's kind of like a kid. I guess your own children on Christmas. Like, it's fun to see it through their eyes. So, it'll be fun for me to learn from other coaches. We have a great staff. But also, a lot of these girls, it'll be their first time representing USA and hearing the national anthem. And so, man, those experiences you never forget.
Qué bien. Y ve acá, el Team USA ahora tiene un nuevo líder. ¿Cuáles son los cambios principales, si alguno, de the vision, okay, and then basically the principles of the institution?
Oh, are you talking about the new CEO?
Yes, sir. Yes. So, what is there in like a specific vision that has been a big change on, or like where do you see Team USA going?
Yeah, I don't know that I know enough to answer that properly, because I kind of am like more or less a hired gun, and there was a couple years in a row where like it worked out schedule wise, and Karch was the senior national team was at one tournament at the same time as the Pan Am Games, and so I took the B team. And so I come in for a month or 3 weeks and train a group, and I don't know all the inner workings of what's going on. I know that COVID's had to force a few unfortunate layoffs, but I don't know that I'm up to speed on. I know I've heard rumblings about a pro league, but I don't know. I'm not an insider of the behind the scenes USA Volleyball.
One last thing, youth development in the US. What makes it unique, okay? And what are some things that maybe other countries can learn from? And in this case, if you can answer in Spanish.
Bueno, en los Estados Unidos tenemos más jugadoras que otros países. Entonces, es más difícil identificar quién son las mejores.
Okay. Un buen problema. Es un buen problema.
Es un buen problema. Bueno, en los últimos 8 años, la cosa que distinguir los Estados Unidos, pienso yo, es el offense, como es muy rápido. Es difícil entrenar este sistema, entonces tenemos que trabajar mucho con la rapidez de las colocadoras, tiene que jugar.
Bueno, I think it's something that you are really passionate about, offense. And, let's go into what you do with your own program. First of all, did you imagine Pitt becoming what it is today? And, and when you first got hired, what were the steps, or what are things that you promised that were going to happen in the future?
I'm supposed to say I knew that. No, I had no idea that we'd have the last 2 years we had. I mean, last year we were undefeated in the ACC. Like that seems like a dream. But what I do as a coach, of course I signed a 5-year deal, and at a Power 5, I would say generally if they're making a change, within 5 years, you kind of go, hey, we better make the NCAA tournament, or be pretty, show that we're definitely on that path, or I'm probably not going to be back. So that was in my mind, like, hey, we got to, that's the goal. And so, but mostly what I do as a coach is, I just obsess about the level in the gym. And then, I feel like if we're training at a high level, then we don't need to find something new when we go to competition. And I get very I've always focused more on the short term, because I know a lot of coaches take over programs, and the first thing they want to do, or before with the old rules, they wanted to commit a freshman in high school. I'd say, hey, I got a 5-year contract that she's going to be here on my 5th year.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we think too much about the really, really long term, and then forget about that specific moment. How do we get better now?
Yeah. So we've as a staff have always prioritized, hey, if we can get a girl that helps our team next year who's pretty similar to someone that helps us in 3 years, let's get the girl now. And so that's all it's been. And so offensively, if there is something that we're doing maybe a little bit different, it's that we attack the ball more times per set than other teams. And we really try to not tip very often. And I'm not saying never, but we try to really never send a free ball, and we're committed to it. We train that way, and
Dan, please say that again, because I'm a huge proportioner of the same thing. Creo que hay que jugar agresivo en el mundo del voleibol de mujeres. Cuéntanos nuevamente en español esta vez, ¿qué te gusta de la parte ofensiva en el voleibol femenino?
Bueno, es que nuestro estilo es jugar muy agresivo. Y bueno, lo más importante para nosotros es pegar fuerte. Y ojalá pegamos fuerte encima de la red con altura, pero prefiero poder, y después hablamos de la otra parte del juego.
Oye, ¿y cómo tú entonces entrenas a las jugadoras a poder ser agresivas cuando más importa? O sea, ¿cómo yo me siento vulnerable en tu gimnasio, Dan? Si yo soy un atleta en tu equipo.
Bueno, hay drills que hacemos donde solamente es luz verde. No hay luz amarillo, no hay rojo, solo pegar fuerte. Y de vez en cuando somos más como un equipo de baloncesto, de fútbol, y todos los entrenadores están gritando, pega fuerte, vamos. And so we just do a lot of different things to try to encourage them to go for it. We'll train, we have to train out of system a lot. We have to be good at the connection between the setter and the hitter. The hitter has to know what step they're on. Are they on a soft left or a hard left, or are they on a zero step? But we also, some other things we do. So we also do work where we just learn to hit when we're out of rhythm. That's one thing I've learned from the men's game is I think a lot of the top players, they can still hit hard even when didn't get the perfect approach or the perfect set, and so sometimes we'll just do some type of tutor session where they'll maybe hit a ball at the setter, and then a coach will just throw in a junk ball. So we do whatever we can to encourage them to hit hard, and but of course we also have to recruit players that want to play that style. And
do you get players that necessarily play that style already, or are you willing to get players that I can teach her how to get to that point?
Well, I try to get players that can play that style, but even here, you're looking at our two outside hitters here, Stephanie, who just finished number 13. She naturally didn't want to make an error. So she would, and she's good at tipping, but she did not like to get blocked. So she's a very efficient player. So it was harder. She needed more encouragement. to have the courage to go for it when the set was coming from over her shoulder. Now, Kayla, number 23, she was a second team All-American last year.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just she's naturally wants to crush every ball as hard as she can. It didn't take much to want her to get her. So, and in fact, she's one of the players we had to say, hey,
slow down.
I'm hitting hard, but you need to please hit high seam, not low seam. So yeah, just working on, working on a range but she was someone that's part of her DNA.
Cuando tú entrenas la ofensiva, ¿entrenas mucho la ofensiva basada en lectura? O sea, ¿estás entrenando al atacante a ir en un paso específico de acuerdo al contacto del colocador? ¿O cómo lo estás entrenando?
Hacemos de todo, pero
sí.
La mayoría es en una situación real.
Sí.
Pero también hacemos tutor sessions, hacemos video, y también hablamos del estilo. Queremos una cultura donde todo el mundo quiere la misma cosa.
O sea, que todo el mundo es sistemático.
Es sistemático. Y también es en la sangre. So I really knew I was getting through. The first year we made the NCAA tournament, we're at Penn State. And so as part of our team meal, we would put on the big projector. We would put on the first round games of other opponents. And I won't tell you who was playing, but we were I just heard some of the girls on our team just screaming at the screen saying, "Stop tipping, hit the ball." And so kind of us at coaches, we kind of looked at each other and said, I think they're
getting somewhere.
I think they're buying into it. So yeah, I think it's just a combination of training it, talking about it, and knowing what we're going for.
Tell me about this table right here. What can we see there?
What that means is we're challenging the block more and we're hitting out less. And it's, for the most part, it's working because we had a first ball side out percentage of 297. And so in general, we feel like we're gaining about 2 kills per set and maybe getting blocked a half a set more per set than any given team we play. And obviously we're not the only one that's doing this style. Georgia Tech is a pretty aggressive offensive team. And so, we're not alone in this by any means, but I think over the past few years, we've been one of the most committed to this style, I would say.
Have that brought you dividends in terms of, do you feel that this is the formula to continue to grow, in your program? Because what you're doing at Pitt, it's just not easy. I was telling this also to Kirsten at Creighton. You are surrounded by some major programs, even in your own state. So, tell me how you feel that this is going to be your formula to continue to grow as a program.
Yeah, I think it's funny you ask that because, we definitely have looked at how is this working against top 50 teams? Is it working at top 100? Then once we go to what about against top 10 teams?
Mm-hmm.
And then the numbers don't look as good, But then again, nobody's numbers look good against top 10. So I think once you get, here's my, my sense of, there's a couple things. One is I believe in the style. It fits my personality. I believe that that's the right way to play. But that alone won't, if the talent level is way above you, that alone's not going to make you jump over someone. And most, I thought we had a team this year. Unfortunately, we lost a close one to stop our run in the tournament. I thought we had a team that could have made an Elite Eight. We were, the teams that from the Elite Eight on, they were better than us. And so it would have, not that it would have been, we would have had to play almost perfect. And most of those teams that went on, had a plumber or had someone that was, so physically dominant that really could carry a big load. So, this, I believe in the style, but I also know that it helps to have one or two just really, really physically dominant players. And and then I also know that if you don't, then everything matters. If you're just going to play the technical style, you got to be really perfect.
12-12 last match against Cincy. Do you remember, what was going through your mind at that point, Coach?
You're going to make me relive that?
I need to ask because, and for everyone watching out there, I believe Dan has done an outstanding job with the program that he has, and he has put himself and his program in a great position to continue to get better. So I would love people to learn about how do you deal with adversity, and how do you take it back and then continue to want to get better, Coach?
Yeah, it's all kind of a blur. I remember, it's interesting because I'll say this last season was, we had 2 losses only. They were both 5-setters. Both against Penn State and Cincinnati, we actually scored more points on the match. So it's the wounds are not as fresh as they were then, but it's like, it's hard to swallow those games when you feel like, hey, we
did your part. You did your part.
We maybe our hitting percentage was better, or you dug more balls, and then you had scored more points, and you go, man, you just, it just comes down to a few moments, and we didn't get down in the moment, and and some of the players on the team went away a little bit from being aggressive. So we didn't have a lot of block errors in that 5th set. We hit some balls out of bounds. So that part's hard to swallow when you're like, man. And then you rewatch it and you go, man, they made some great plays. Cincinnati, I thought it was really good volleyball. So it's still a little bit fresh, I guess.
Last question about that specific match. How do you get your team rewired to get ready to, that part is over, but we learn from it. What are some things that you have taken and that you have transmitted to your players that they feel even hungrier now because they got to that point?
Yeah, I guess the only new way to frame it that I'm going to be talking about the team this year, assuming we have a season, is I think the idea of, I think it's maybe a mistake I made was, and I didn't talk about it a ton, but we talked about making a deep run in the tournament and being in a Final Four, and but I think it's more important not to talk about. I think maybe we just talked about the result too much. Like, hey, we made a Final Four or an Elite Eight, rather than, I think we need to dream more of being in the moment. A 12-all. We need to be vivid about dreaming of being back in that moment.
I love that, Coach. I love it. You're focusing on that, on the short term that you were talking about.
So I think that's like, hey, like it's not about do we make a Final Four or do we make a. It's about, hey, are you dreaming of having the chance to, like, hey, I got that swing to go to a Sweet 16 or you know. So I think that's the main shift that I want to focus on.
Love it. Y espero que los coaches que estén escuchándonos aprendan de esa situación muy importante, donde entrenadores como Dan han estado también en adversidad. A veces pensamos que Dan tuvo una temporada increíble. Si no me creen, miren en Google y busquen a Pitt Volleyball. Lo que él hizo el año pasado fue algo histórico. A nivel nacional en la NCAA División 1. Perdiendo solamente 2 partidos en total. Totalmente espectacular. Te quiero preguntar de otro tema que también te apasiona y es del bloqueo, pero esta vez vamos a hablarlo en español y quiero que me converses un poco de cuáles son los principios de bloqueo en Pitt Volleyball y el porqué de las cosas. ¿Qué números te han llevado a lo que estás haciendo a nivel defensivo?
Bueno, queremos hacer stuff blocks. Queremos, no estamos tratando de hacer un bloqueo defensivo. Queremos hacer un bloqueo para hacer un punto. Y la mayoría del poder de otro atacante viene en su línea de ataque. Entonces, la mayoría de jugadores pega fuerte donde están atacando, where they're facing. Entonces, la cosa más importante es ver dónde va la colocación y ver cómo están los pasos del atacante.
¿Cuán temprano yo miro el atacante, Dan, en tu filosofía? ¿Yo lo miro rápido que sale el balón de la colocación o yo me concentro más en la dirección de la colocación?
Bueno, al alto nivel muy rápido. Pero el problema es, con 18 de edad, no es posible siempre decir, move your eyes to just to the hitters. Like, I think there's a proceso de you can't just jump from looking at the setter to the hitter. You have to go through a learning curve.
It's a hard perception read, you know, because it's it's the perspective is wider. You're closer to the object, so it's a wider range.
It's also, and then there's sometimes, when there's a really fast offense, there's times we just say stay on the ball. Like it's like if someone's running a slide, I mean, I'm not always convinced there's time that, just stay on the ball and try to grab it. But certainly, the slower it's moving, the more time there is to get on the hitter's arm. And,
fuera de sistema, o el pase mediano, exclamación, ¿qué principios tienes ahora mismo? ¿Te gusta, como quiera, timing desde el bunch o tú quieres que los bloqueadores vayan temprano al atacante?
Okay.
No, do you like out of system
a bunch or if our blockers spread a little bit?
Yeah, out of system. Are you going early into the ball or are you timing it from the bunch block formation?
No, so way out of system. If it's very obvious, we want our both blockers to take a dedicate step, and so then maybe it's just un paso de swing block. But I would rather, I don't like when they wait too far away from the ball because then there's too many holes in the block.
¿Manos arriba o manos abajo?
Normalmente manos abajo.
¿Por qué, Dan?
Bueno, es que es difícil moverse rápido con manos encima de la cabeza. Y la mayoría de quick attacks en el mundo de volley mujeres no es tan rápido that it makes you need to have your hands in this position. It's very rare that someone's hitting what we say zero tempo.
Dan, what we grew up in a generation in the 80s and 90s feeling that if we have our hands closer, to the destination, it will be quicker. However, me as a player find myself anyway loading and then going up.
I also think I learned a lot over the last, I think men's volleyball has changed that way. Like I started watching David Lee a couple Olympics ago, having his hands by his knees, but still blocking a quick attack. So the ability to move quickly.
One of the best players ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I think that just also, changed my mind when you start seeing some of the men's players, how quickly they can move against a quick attack with their hands low.
And this is gonna I'm doing it in fully English, but against a gap goal, I feel it's a really difficult ball for a defensive person, as a blocker, to actually work on reading and understanding what to do and when. Do you go more into an option situation? Are you dedicating? Are you fronting, or are you reading in any? Let's say that it's in a general, no scouting about fronting specifically. Mm-hmm. Are they reading against a gap go, or how do you treat it?
With no scout, reading against a gap go, and so. With this year, we had Chinaza Inde was our right side. Mm-hmm. And so she was really got good at being in a load with her hands low, but she was still able to jump back in on the gap. Now she was a starting middle for us for the past 2 years and a very good blocker. So I had the luxury of being able to being a bunch read more, but when we had our 5'8" Hawaiian setter in the front row, we wanted her to focus more on the player in her zone.
When should I play? If I'm a coach at younger levels, and even maybe starting in college, when should I play 6'2" more than a 5'1", Dan? Are there specific situations that you suggest? Does it automatically depends on me having an amazing slide hitter or to stick to a 5'1", or what are the other situations and opportunities that I stick to just one setter?
I think at almost every level a 6'2" is great. We've run them the first couple of years here, and we were working toward, we were doing it at the end of the season last year a little bit. I mean, always having 3 front row attackers is, I think the bigger thing is than the slide is, do you have someone that can really attack from the back row? Mm-hmm. Because, if not, you just end up setting only zone 4, and so I think 6'2" are great. I would prefer to see at the youth level more 6'2" and more 6 rotation outsides than 5'1" with defensive players in the back.
And you have been someone that have been using 6 rotation outsides forever. So how do we combat that with 15 subs in the club level and NCAA? It's a big temptation them to specialize since early ages.
It is. And I don't know if it's ever going to be solved when you have so many subs at the youth levels, and people, it's a pay to play, like they want to get some playing time, and putting someone in 3 rotations is a chance to get them some playing time. I think the key is just, we have to be good at the college level of training, passing, and defense, so that, we can keep working towards that later in their career if they're not ready to pass right away. Mm-hmm. And then I think the other thing at the, I guess that I would encourage youth coaches is at least to try to maybe have 1 6 rotation outside, right, on your club team. So like work towards at least having 1, if it's not always possible to have both, but at least to have that one person that's from a young age learning how to play the whole game.
Dan, you're a numbers person, you know, you love numbers, and you apply them into the game and your decision making throughout matches. Do you use them also in training? Do you have a measuring system to develop internal competitions or of a cauldron inside of your own program?
We have in the past, but I think lately I just feel like I don't, especially in the off season, I just don't want, I want them worried about getting better. And so I think where I'm at with it now is, for the most part, when you're trying to change something, sometimes your numbers suffer. So I don't like to share them a whole lot in the off season. And even in season, I don't like to share it with them a ton, but I will if they're like, why am I not playing? You go, well, here's why. Or I'll say, hey, it's really close. And it's, I might be messing up, but here's why I'm doing it. So yeah, the main thing that I share with the team, like in the off season, is a lot of the offensive, like block to hitting out numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we're doing a drill and all of a sudden we're 25% error, and then I'll just yell over to my data volley person, and I'll just say, hey, you know, how many of these are true errors? You know, how many of these are like bottom of the tape or out versus how many are you like are hitting the blocker's hands? And in general, we're getting reckless with avoiding the block.
So you're teaching your players mostly to play against forehands most of the time. You know, you're spending a lot of time during the season in medium pass and out of system, including that work with your setters. Then, like, are you teaching your setters to play fast or fast enough during those type of situations?
Yeah, we want to play fast when we can, but I'd rather play slow and have a full approach than fast with an approach where you like decelerate, you know, where you start to go into the ball soft. And so basically, you know, our pin hitters at any moment can, you know, they have the option to yell for a high ball. And so with the standard for us is not in system, is the setter in rhythm? Can the setter deliver a fast ball? And the setter can too. If they're running in a bump setting, they can just yell high. But mostly we have the hitter decide. And so, yeah, that's kind of how we do it.
A nameless opponent of you says that one of your biggest weapons is the serve. You're really efficient with your serve and very strategic. That aside from your offense and that you keep things really simple and really consistent, your serve is also another weapon that you use against opponents. So tell me a little bit about that, and what are the best training methods to continue to evolve in this game that, you know, speed and power have been probably the present and future of the game?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't feel like that's one of my best things I teach. So,
but that's how they perceive you.
Yeah, you know, I think I guess what I do is when I'm teaching serving is I keep experimenting, you know, and I say, hey, toss the ball too far to the left, toss the ball too far to the right, toss it behind you, try with your arm up here, try with your arm down, try, you know, like, and I think it does two things. When you're trying something new, you're more engaged, and so your brain is, you know, you're learning better. And then I think, you know, we try a lot of different, and then sometimes I'll just say, hey, we're working, hey, just do a jump spin, try a short serve, and so I think it also just opens up. They might have a light bulb moment and go, wow, I really like that type of serve. And so then I think you try to find something that really works for them that hopefully is biomechanically reasonable. But if you look at, if I look at the best jump floaters in the men's and the women's game, they're not all doing the same toss or the same, but they're all hitting the ball from a high point and they're all making it float. And so there's, I think we watch a lot of the best and we tinker a lot. And then I will say, you know, my volunteer this year was Kim Maroon, who's Jamie Morris's girlfriend, and he spent some time in our gym, and Jamie really you know, challenged me to look at how I taught serving, and so we're stealing some stuff from him. And we did some before COVID happened. We had some really a couple of days serving that I was, when we were doing some of Jamie's concepts, that I was like, man, this is going really well. So I'm stealing from Jamie.
Coach, I want to show you one last thing about, you know, from this interview, and it's to support your idea about emphasizing specific elements of offense and seeing it as your philosophy and vision to continue to get better. I did this study in the spring of 2019. Where I gather information from every team from in the Power Five, and then including the conference that I was in, and then compare the numbers that you need in order to be successful in each of those conferences. So definitely side out, controlling opponent side out, hitting percentage is huge, knowing how to play in transition. And the block error percentage that you talk is also an important matter the better you get. And another thing that your team has done well throughout the years is the amount of earned points per set. So I think that, you know, when you gather that information and that data, it definitely demonstrates that your team is only going to continue to get better, Coach, because the things that you're training in the gym the most are the things that are happening in the game, according to at least the numbers that I gathered last year. So, you know, so again, just wanted to congratulate you for, I told you in the first conversation that we had that I feel that you have done an amazing job that we should be learning from. And I love, you know, I love where your program is heading.
Yeah, thank you so much. And gracias por todo lo que estás haciendo por el mundo de voleibol. It's a pleasure to be here.
Perfecto, perfecto. ¿Algunas últimas palabras para las personas que nos están escuchando en diferentes partes del mundo?
For people that are listening from all over, just
sí.
You want it in Spanish or English?
En español.
Gracias por escuchar, y es un honor estar aquí con Manolo y hablando del deporte que queremos, y bueno, yo también estoy aprendiendo cada día y intentando mejorar como los demás.
Agradezco esta oportunidad que Dan Fisher nos ha dado. Él es el dirigente de la Universidad de Pittsburgh. Para los que viven fuera de Estados Unidos, una de las mejores universidades reconocidas en la NCAA División 1. Tiene un programa totalmente en crecimiento en una conferencia muy difícil dentro de lo que se llama el Power Five, y la conferencia se llama el ACC. Así que los invito a seguir el desarrollo deportivo de este programa, en la cual él muy humildemente ha llevado de menos a más, y creo que va a seguir en crecimiento. Quiero dejarles saber a todas las personas que nos están viendo que los Volley Junkies, aquí me voy a coger un breakcito de algunos días, especialmente en este weekend del 4 de julio, pero ha sido un placer estar con ustedes durante estos meses y brindarle, espero en Dios, una oportunidad educativa gratis, donde cada entrenador ha venido y compartido lo que hacen en cada uno de sus gimnasios. Así que, sin más preámbulos, los dejo. Gracias nuevamente por poder llegarle a sus hogares. Recuerden que pueden conseguir esta entrevista y todas las demás en nuestro canal de YouTube. Y de igual manera, por favor, dale like y follow a nuestra página de Facebook, que ya estamos casi en los 4,000 seguidores cuando esto fue comenzado desde marzo. Así que los espero para lo que vamos a llamar el Season 2 de estas conferencias. Dependiendo de lo que ocurra con la NCAA, si jugamos o no, pues va a disminuir la cantidad de veces a la semana que yo haga, o vamos a seguir educándonos lo más posible. Así que espero que esto lo haya distraído por estos últimos meses y no hayamos pensado tanto en estos problemas que estamos viviendo en la pandemia, por favor, manténgase con mucha salud y seguridad en donde quiera que nos estén escuchando. Thank you so much, Dan Fisher. And I look forward actually to meeting you in person and then exchanging some thoughts about the game that we love.
Would love to.